I want to run through this case in as matter-of-fact a manner as I can. Some of the subject matter will be of a sensitive nature, but I'll avoid graphic or sensational descriptions, and I want to avoid my own personal biases, so I will avoid speculating or editorializing in this video. I just want to focus on the relevant facts as they were presented in the case. I'll begin by introducing and outlining the relationships between the four relevant parties: Conor McGregor, Nikita Hand, James Lawrence, and Danielle Keeley. Nikita Hand and Danielle Keeley were work colleagues, but at different branches of a chain of hair salons. Hand and Keeley had been partying through Saturday night, December 8, 2018, into Sunday morning, consuming alcohol and drugs. Nikita Hand and Danielle Keeley were not close friends. They worked in different branches and were only together for the Christmas party. During the party, Hand mentioned she was chatting with Conor McGregor on Instagram. On Sunday morning, McGregor collected Hand and Keeley from the car park outside their hair salon in Goatstown. McGregor then decided to pick up James Lawrence, who had gone home earlier. McGregor told his driver he had two girls, two boisterous ladies, full of energy, and needed to level it out, make it a party. McGregor and Lawrence had known each other since childhood, but became closer friends as they got older. According to McGregor, Nikita Hand also knew James Lawrence. Conor McGregor and Nikita Hand were from the same area in Dublin and had previously exchanged Instagram messages, but it doesn't appear they were acquainted beyond that. The group decided to go to the Beacon Hotel, arriving at around 12:30 in the afternoon. They went to the penthouse suite where they continued drinking and playing music. So, these are the dynamics and relationships behind this spontaneous gathering that would later become the subject of this civil trial. Before I get into both sides and the evidence presented, I want to first briefly outline the trial, the verdict, and the consequences for McGregor. As we all know, Nikita Hand accused McGregor of sexually assaulting her in the penthouse suite that night. She claimed that McGregor would not take no for an answer. He pinned her down on a bed and choked her 3 times. She was left with severe bruising and injuries. McGregor denied the allegations, stating that the encounter was consensual. He described it as athletic and vigorous, but not violent. He claimed Hand fabricated the accusations. The civil trial took place in the High Court. It lasted for 2 weeks. The jury consisted of 8 women and 4 men. After 6 hours of deliberation, the jury found that on the balance of probabilities, McGregor had assaulted Nikita Hand. McGregor was not the only defendant in the case. The jury found that James Lawrence, who was a co-defendant, was not liable for assault. The jury awarded Nikita Hand approximately €250,000 in damages. In the aftermath, Conor expressed disappointment that the jury did not hear all the evidence reviewed by the Director of Public Prosecutions. So the DPP, the Irish prosecutors, had decided not to proceed with a criminal case, and in the aftermath of the civil case, McGregor lamented the fact that the jury hadn't seen the same evidence as the DPP. After the verdict, Nikita Hand urged other victims to speak out. The financial and professional impact on McGregor. As part of the fallout, McGregor lost multiple sponsors, including Proper 12. The company that owns the brand announced they would no longer use McGregor's name or likeness in marketing. IO Interactive, the video game developer, ceased its collaboration with McGregor and began removing his content from the Hitman franchise. Irish retailers, several major Irish retail chains, removed McGregor's Proper 12 and Forged Irish Stout from their shelves. Beyond the €250,000 and the lost sponsors, the financial implications for McGregor could be far greater. McGregor's personal brand has been severely tarnished, potentially affecting future sponsorships and business opportunities. His acting career is very likely to be at least halted. I don't think anyone could give an approximate dollar estimate of the full financial implications for Conor, but it's safe to say they are likely to be very substantial. It's also worth mentioning that the case follows other allegations made against McGregor in recent years, allegations he has consistently denied. Despite losing the case, McGregor maintains his innocence and plans to appeal the decision. So that's a brief overview of the whole case. Probably the most important and consequential question we could ask is, why did the DPP not pursue a criminal case against McGregor? Why are we discussing a civil case and not a criminal case? The DPP decided not to pursue criminal charges for several reasons. Insufficient evidence. The DPP concluded there was no reasonable prospect of conviction for either man, and this suggests they believe the available evidence was not strong enough to secure conviction beyond a reasonable doubt, which is the standard required in criminal cases. CCTV footage. The surveillance video from the hotel played a significant role in the DPP's decision. Now, I'll discuss this at length later in the video, but this footage appeared to contradict or challenge aspects of Nikita's account, and it appears to support the account given by the co-defendant James Lawrence. Credibility concerns. Nikita Hand admitted to lying to her boyfriend about her whereabouts and company on the day of the alleged incident. This admission could have raised questions about her overall credibility. Impaired recollection. Hand acknowledged being heavily intoxicated and having used cocaine, which resulted in memory gaps about certain events. This impaired state could have made it challenging to establish a clear sequence of events. In cases of alleged sexual assault that occur behind closed doors, it can be difficult to find sufficient corroborating evidence for a conviction. He said, she said cases are notoriously difficult for prosecutors to win. So, the DPP's role here was not to establish innocence or guilt. It was to assess whether there was a reasonable prospect of conviction based on the available evidence. And they felt that there was not a reasonable prospect of conviction for the above reasons. Okay, so now I would like to get into the specifics of the case. I'll begin by looking at what was the major evidence presented against Conor McGregor. Well, there was medical evidence and the testimony of multiple experts. Dr. Daniel Kane, a gynecologist from the Sexual Assault Treatment Unit, provided crucial medical evidence in Nikita Hand's case against Conor McGregor. Here's the key points. He examined Hand on December 10, 2018, the day after the alleged incident. Hand appeared visibly distressed during the examination, exhibiting shaking and crying. He had to remove a tampon with forceps. Hand had a possible internal tear in her vagina. He observed a multiplicity of injuries on Hand's body, including bruising on all 4 limbs. Dr. Kane classified Hand's injuries as moderate to severe. He concluded that Hand's condition was consistent with the outline of events she had described. Dr. Kane's testimony provided significant medical support for Hand's allegations. Dr. Emma Quinn, a general practitioner, also provided significant medical testimony. She examined Nikita on December 19th, 10 days after the alleged incident. Dr. Quinn observed tenderness on the left side of Miss Hand's neck. She stated that the symptoms were consistent with internal bruising. Dr. Quinn noted that these findings aligned with Miss Hand's account of being forcibly restrained around the neck during an assault. So 2 doctors are saying they found her injuries consistent with her story. A paramedic also testified that Hand's bruising was the worst she had seen in a long time. There was also psychological evidence. Dr. Ann Leader, a psychiatrist with 46 years of experience dealing with 5,000 sexual assault cases, diagnosed Hand with severe PTSD in December 2020. Dr. Leader's diagnosis was based on reading Hand's 150-page statement to the police, notes from Hand's counseling sessions during 2019 and 2020, Hand's medical records, and a personal examination of Hand. Dr. Leader noted that Hand experienced constant nightmares, panic attacks, detachment from friends, and anxiety about photos of her bruised body potentially circulating online. Additionally, Dr. Frank Clark, Hand's GP of over 20 years, stated that Hand suffered serious physical and psychological injury and has significant ongoing distressing symptoms due to PTSD. So, 2 doctors confirmed that her physical injuries were consistent with her story, and 2 more doctors confirmed that she was suffering from PTSD. DNA obtained from Hand and her underwear and clothes belonged to McGregor. Now, the DNA evidence isn't that important because Conor doesn't dispute that they had relations. Physical evidence. The straps of Hand's black jumpsuit were ripped. A forensic scientist suggested that this damage was caused by pulling, not normal wear and tear. A recorded conversation between Hand and her boyfriend later that same day. Now, this was introduced by McGregor's defense, but it was seen by many as potentially helpful to Hand's case. It demonstrated her extreme intoxication, her genuine state of distress, and she referenced complaints she has continued to make, such as being choked. Nikita Hand's own testimony. Hand provided detailed testimony about the alleged assault, including claims that McGregor choked her 3 times, and things McGregor had reportedly said during the incident. Now, some of these things don't quite add up. She claimed McGregor mentioned he had been submitted 3 times in the octagon, which as we know is not true. But that was her testimony. There's also a separate issue. Nikita Hand was the victim of a very serious home invasion in June 2024, but the jury were instructed not to consider this as part of the case. So, to summarize, there were quite a few things presented to the jury, but the 4 major things appeared to be the physical evidence, her injuries, and the testimony of medical experts, her psychological state, her continuing PTSD, and the testimony of medical experts with respect to that, her own testimony of the assault, the recorded conversation with her boyfriend. Okay, so now let's take a look at the other side of things. What are the major points that were presented in Conor's defense? A major part of his defense was the CCTV footage. The defense lawyers for Conor McGregor and James Lawrence used the footage to argue that Nikita Hand was not in distress and appeared to be functioning normally. The footage showed Hand being affectionate towards both men, including kissing McGregor's arm after the alleged assault, and later having her arms around Lawrence and kissing him at several points. So there was a lot of CCTV footage. McGregor left the hotel with Danielle at about 6:15 in the evening. Lawrence and Nikita stayed. For some reason, it took them about an hour to get back into the suite, and they were visible to the security cameras for a lot of that hour. So there's a lot of footage of Hand and Lawrence. The defense claimed that Hand's behavior in the footage contradicted her account of being brutally assaulted and battered. She stated that she had no memory of the events depicted in the footage and found it very disturbing to watch. The CCTV footage also contradicted various other parts of her story. Phone records. There were also various phone records that seemed to contradict her story. Hand sent a text message to her then boyfriend from the hotel car park at around 6:28. The message indicated she was having a good time and was okay, saying, "I'm so drunk." During her testimony, Hand had initially claimed she sent this message from the hotel room after waking up next to McGregor following the alleged assault. However, the CCTV footage and phone records showed that this was not accurate. Phone records also showed that she had attempted to call McGregor after he had left the hotel. Nikita claimed she didn't remember making the call and didn't know why she had done so. The recording. As I mentioned, when Nikita Hand went home, her boyfriend recorded their conversation. It was McGregor's defense who submitted the audio. The conversation did contain a number of lies about her whereabouts, and she refused to name her alleged attacker. But as I said, many observers in court felt it may have actually supported her case by demonstrating her genuine distress and appearing to corroborate some details of her later allegations, such as being choked. McGregor's testimony. McGregor provided his version of events, stating that the encounter with Miss Hand was consensual and athletic and vigorous. He claimed there was no tampon present during their interaction, contradicting the medical evidence. He said he did not cause the bruising on Miss Hand's body. McGregor suggested alternative causes for Hand's injuries. He recalled her swan diving into the bathtub and suggested that she could have also been knocked about elsewhere during what he called her 3-day bender. Beyond McGregor's testimony, we had James Lawrence's account. James Lawrence's testimony played a significant role in McGregor's defense, providing support for McGregor's claim of consent and challenging Nikita's account. Here's the key points of Lawrence's testimony. Lawrence testified that he observed flirtatious behavior between McGregor and Hand in the car on the way to the hotel and in the suite. He also claimed to have seen them in the act, and she was in the top position. This testimony appeared to support McGregor's claim that she was a willing participant. Lawrence also claimed that he had consensual sex with Hand twice after McGregor left the hotel. So McGregor left the hotel with Danielle Keeley at around 6:15, and Lawrence and Hand remained in the hotel together, where Lawrence claims they had consensual sex. Hand stated she had no memory of any sexual activity with Lawrence, describing his account as a made-up story. CCTV footage showed Hand being physically affectionate and flirtatious with Lawrence, which could be seen as supporting his account. However, a security guard who checked on the room 3 times when Lawrence and Hand were alone testified that he never saw them engaging in sexual activity or in a state of undress. Lawrence stated he only saw a small bruise on Nikita, nothing like the extensive bruising shown in later photographs. So James Lawrence's testimony bolstered McGregor's defense and challenged the credibility of Hand's allegations. Danielle Keeley's testimony provided another perspective of the events. Keeley stated that she was surprised to hear about the allegation. She said she didn't notice anything had happened when leaving the Beacon Hotel. She testified that no one was in bad form and everything was fine when McGregor and Hand came out of the bedroom. So she's providing some more support for McGregor's defense. Expert testimony. A forensic physician was called to give evidence. He mentioned that the anti-anxiety drug sertraline, Zoloft, which Miss Hand was prescribed, can increase the propensity for bruising, so he suggested that her prescription drugs could have been a contributing factor to the extensive bruising. In summary, the defense arguments mainly focused on the following: CCTV footage, inconsistencies in her story, prominent lapses in her memory of events. The defense questioned her credibility, highlighting lies Hand had allegedly told. They focused on contradictory testimony, not just from McGregor, but also from Lawrence and Keeley. They presented phone records that showed she had tried to call McGregor after he had left the hotel. McGregor offered alternative explanations of how her injuries might have occurred. They presented expert testimony on the potential role of her medication in exacerbating her bruising. Despite presenting this evidence and testimony, the jury ultimately found in favor of Nikita Hand, awarding her damages of approximately €250,000. Anyway, I feel like those are most of the relevant facts and considerations in the case. If anyone feels like I omitted any major or important details on either side, please let me know. I don't want to overlook any important details.